No Peg Wronghole presents Ravings with Tana and Bill.
Yeah, so today we're going to discuss those three young ladies that were found after being held captive for about a decade in Cleveland, Ohio.
Which most of you, if you've read anything in the news, saw any news broadcasts, you're only going to notice the name Amanda Berry. We don't know why, but there were two other girls held captive there as far as we know, maybe even a fourth.
Yeah, and at least one child was found in the home as well. But the other two young ladies found there were Gina DeJesus and Michelle Knight. And so Amanda Berry's the one that was able to alert people to their presence and get some help for these girls and get them rescued. And the three perverts that were holding them hostage have been arrested.
Let's see here. The three brothers, the oldest is Pedro Castro, the youngest is Olin Castro. Pedro's 54, Olin is 50. And then the middle brother, Ariel Castro, 52, just happens to be a school bus driver, which puts him in a great opportunity to start up his little Kiss the Girls enterprise, locking these girls in the house.
Yeah, so that sick bastard actually got fired from his job as a school bus driver last year, I believe. But yeah, so he worked for the school district for a number of years, transporting little girls all over the place to and from school. And at least one of those little girls didn't apparently make it home because she ended up going to live at his house.
Yeah. I'll say we know that Amanda had a daughter at some point during her incarceration. Did they say how old she was?
She's about 6.
About 6 years old? Okay,
Yeah.
so 4 years into it, she had one child that lived. We've heard rumors that there's another 5 babies that were born during that time, but we don't know what happened to them. We were speculating they might have been boys, and that's not really what the guys wanted to keep around. They probably wanted to raise another girl to keep captive.
Yeah, and also a number of miscarriages apparently have been reported by these young ladies. So obviously they were not taken just for cleaning the house purposes.
And unfortunately, this segues into what we originally wanted to talk about this show, because we noticed once upon a time South Park put out a show about John Edwards.
Yeah.
And they called him the biggest douche in the universe. Well, we think somebody is trying to rival him for that, and her name is Sylvia Brown.
Also a TV psychic.
Also a giant douche.
Yeah, because Miss Sylvia Brown, Amanda Berry's parents had appeared on the Montel Williams show back in 2004, and Sylvia Brown told her parents, honey, she's not alive. And then the mother broke down in tears on the stage, and then the mother died of a broken heart.
Well, they say that Mrs. Berry apparently believed Brown 100%, and then died like 2 years later, believing that her daughter was dead.
Uh-huh.
That's just one more check mark in Sylvia Brown's 100% wrong about everything she supposedly predicts.
Yeah, and this wasn't the only case where she's told a mother that their child was dead and they were later found years later alive.
No, there wasn't. We had another story about that somewhere, and I don't... What was that? Oh, yeah, it was another couple from the Montel Williams show, as a matter of fact. And after she told him that, she tried to extort another $700 out of him for further reading.
Yeah, and they could not afford the fee, so then they weren't allowed to have any more help from her as far as locating their child's body. However, their child's living body was found 4 years later, alive and as well as can be when you're held captive in a creepy situation by some perverts. So that was the second case that we were able to find where she had told the family that their children were dead and they weren't.
Yeah, if you'd like to go to Sylvia Brown's website, you can set up a completely wrong reading for only $850 per hour.
That's a bargain basement price, really, considering her amazing accuracy rate.
Just so you could be in the presence of the world's biggest douche, or as I like to call her, Mrs. Cuntbag.
Yeah, she's a winner there. But yeah, for $850, you can have a phone interview with her. Well, a phone reading, I suppose it's not an interview, but a phone reading, and have your future predicted and perhaps locate your loved one's remains when they're not actually dead. And if you can't afford the $850, you can get a reading from her son, Chris, for only $500. But be advised, you're not allowed to record those sessions, so anything they tell you, you better remember it or write it down, because you can't record them and reflect back later.
And please, don't spend any of your time trying to think about the bullshit she's feeding you.
Yeah, well, many of these TV psychics use what social engineers call cold reading, or even a little bit of warm reading, so that they can figure out what things to say to these people so that they will be believed. But essentially what cold reading is using body language, reading body language and facial expressions to tell if what you're telling someone is hitting with them or not. So they will say something really vague, and then kind of watch your body language and your facial expressions to see, does this person like what I'm saying? If they do, they'll keep down that same road of questioning. And if they don't, then they'll suddenly switch it. So, for instance, if I were doing a psychic reading for Bill, I might say something like, well, I know that you're kind of shy sometimes in person, but I can tell you like to speak out a lot when you're with people that you're comfortable with.
How do you know that?
Wow, because that's something that most people are like. And then I might say, well, I feel a female motherly presence about you. It may not actually be your mother. It could be a grandmother or an aunt or a friend of your mom's from back home when you grew up in the wild streets of D.C.
Might be that lady that accidentally bumped her ass into you in the mall when you were 4 years old.
Right, but exactly. But yeah, so they just
name. She loves you.
She's there and she loves you and she wants you to know. Make sure you take your vitamins because vitamins are very important. Well, I don't take vitamins. That's why she's saying it.
That's right.
So
she might come through a little muffled. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and that's the other fantastic excuse is, well, it's not my fault that I can't interpret the spirits. It's that they have trouble communicating with me. They're not strong enough to communicate.
Apparently, a lot of our spirits need speech therapy. They need to get their shit clear before they start talking to the psychics. Well, it's never the psychic's fault.
It's never the psychic's fault. And Miss Sylvia Brown has not released a statement explaining why she misled this family and told them that their child was dead when, in fact, she was alive.
We're desperately waiting for her BS excuse for it. And I just can't wait to hear it. It sounds... everything she says is just such horse crap. Well, I can't believe this woman still exists in people's minds.
Well, and I'm sure that what she's going to say is something like, well, I made a mistake. I misinterpreted what Spirit was trying to say. Or I must have obviously been hearing the voice of someone else's child that was sitting nearby you in the audience. And so that wasn't my fault that I couldn't distinguish between the two children's voices. Yeah. So it's so preposterous. And the thing is that I really have a problem with is that they target people who are in deep, deep grief. Either people whose children are missing or their other loved ones are missing, or people who've had loved ones pass away recently and they're obviously deeply suffering and grasping at anything that can bring them closer to their families. And it's a very sad place to be in when you're grieving that way, and then to take advantage of someone who's suffering so much is just despicable.
It is. And the fact that she's been busted out so many times in the past, she made her big presence in TV working with the Montel Williams show.
Although I do love the juicer. I do love that Montel juicer. I can't afford it myself, but I've heard other people. I've had juice that other people have made, and it really is amazing juice.
Yeah, Montel actually, he was, going back to our other show, he was a big advocate for the legalization of medical marijuana.
Yes.
So kudos to him. But unfortunately, he was highly stoned all the time and brought this bitch on his show constantly. Well, bad move on his part, I guess. But
but she's a ratings grabber.
She is.
A lot of people obviously pay $850 to speak with her.
People are gullible as hell.
Yeah, and the reason why a lot of folks become so gullible is because of how much suffering they're going through.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of suffering in the world. We all know this.
Absolutely.
We're all very well versed in it. But you don't need charlatans like this destroying you any further, especially not preying on the weak-minded people.
Right.
And that's what they really do.
Right.
I spent a little time this morning going over some of her other videos that you can find on YouTube. One of my favorites, if you type it into YouTube, it's just called Psychic Gets Busted. This woman is kind of upset from the audience, and she's talking about how she's so upset because they never found the body of her deceased boyfriend. Sylvia proceeds to tell her, it's because he's in the water, honey. They couldn't find him because he was in the water and he drowned. To which this woman automatically replies, no, he was a firefighter in 9/11. He died in the building collapse.
Right, and was...
So, well, I don't know why he keeps telling me water. He keeps saying he couldn't breathe and there was water.
Maybe because as he was incinerated by the falling buildings and the just horrific circumstances in those buildings as they collapsed, he desperately wanted some water.
That could be.
But how sick is that to tell someone that whose loved one is missing that you know where their body is?
How sick is it to try and just cheat people out of anything, any bit of their normal grief for a missing or a deceased loved one, just to make yourself a little bit of extra money?
Yeah. And it's not a little bit, it's an ass ton of extra money.
She makes an ass ton of extra money. She's got shitloads of books out there, and, shame this woman. Everybody should build a website like the Stop Sylvia Brown website that we found, which is quite beautiful and shows a lot of her failures.
Yeah. Like her explaining how she always works with the police departments and the FBI, to which the FBI and National Center for Missing Children, or Missing and Exploited Children, say psychic detectives have never helped solve a single case.
No, they bring in their supposed information, and nothing comes out of it.
Right.
Ever. Despite what any of these TV shows are trying to teach you, it's always leading to a dead end.
Right. And I can definitely understand why a family would be so distraught that they would seek out anybody that could possibly help find someone.
Yeah, it's just taking advantage of people who are in a weak moment, and I despise assholes who do that. I wish her nothing better than getting hit by a bus and thrown into a cistern full of somebody's used fecal matter.
that just created a very creepy visual in my mind.
I hope it did that for everybody, and I hope she's hearing this and it's going into her head as well, because boy, that bitch better hope there's no karma. She's coming back as a fat man's sweaty bicycle seat.
Good God. Enjoy that moment for yourself, Miss Sylvia.
That is a beautiful one, isn't it? But also, I watched another video of hers this morning. It's a couple years old now. It's her. Sylvia Browne discusses the 2012 End of Days, and it was a fucking joke. First off, she kept calling it the Aztec or the Inca calendar that was going to come to an end.
Not the Mayan.
Not the Mayan. She didn't seem to know that that was a word to be used in this discussion. She claimed that all across the world it was going to be okay, because we still have 100 years left to live.
Well, thank God, because she also says that when everyone passes away, that their souls become the age of 35. So, in the mystical land of heaven that she believes in.
I'm not going to change much.
Yeah. But yeah, so any infant that passes away automatically becomes 35. If you were 130 when you passed away, then you become 35, because 35 is apparently the perfection for the human soul, but not the human body, because we're falling apart here, guys.
Well, she also mentioned that in the year 2012, during the spring and the summer, gas prices were going to become drastically lower than they are at current times when she was putting it together.
Yeah.
Are they quite a bit higher now?
Yeah, I was going to say that, because my wallet isn't seeing that.
Fail. But the number one thing it should tell you that she's a bullshit artist. Every 30 seconds during that video, which was about 20 minutes long, she stopped and said, "Trust me."
Yeah, and that's something that everybody really needs to know. When someone says something to you like, "Trust me," or "I'm being honest with you," automatically assume they're lying.
Most of the time they are.
Because when someone is actually being truthful, they don't have the need to keep telling you they're being truthful.
I don't know. She's got my vote. She is the biggest douche in the universe. And everybody should go to her website, her Facebook page, her Twitter, whatever you can find, and just send her crappy messages. Make stuff up. It doesn't matter. Turn her into the biggest laughingstock in the world and help educate everyone who would ever fall for her bullshit.
Yeah, well, and she's written countless books that you can find in the bargain bin at Barnes & Noble.
The cheapest shit they have.
Yeah, but when they first published these books, they charged hardback book prices, and people flocked to get them because people are hungry for spiritual development, and people are hungry for being able to connect with their loved ones who have passed away. And it's just so disgusting that you would keep writing the same material over and over again in books and just making things up and then sell it for people's hard-earned money when they're so desperately seeking answers, and to mislead the public in such a way. It's flat out despicable.
It is. It's a terrible thing. And don't get me wrong. I am a big fan of paranormal, the subject of paranormal, the genre in general. I think there probably are people out there who have genuine psychic abilities.
Yeah, as
but
well.
But none of them are selling you anything. They're probably keeping it to themselves so you don't think they're fools.
Yeah, and I've known some people that had abilities, I wouldn't say necessarily psychic abilities, but abilities to comfort people when they've been grieving, or people who seem to maybe know things that don't make sense why they may know that, but I've never heard of anyone trying to charge someone $850 to give you that information.
No.
Or, a little bit of friendly advice. They don't charge you hundreds and hundreds of dollars to talk to you.
As soon as somebody's helping you and they need your credit card number, it's all bullshit and you need to just walk away.
Yeah, actually, I have a cousin who went into severe debt, over $10,000 in debt from calling psychic hotlines.
Oh, yeah.
Because she had some different interpersonal things that happened. She had some circumstances that were quite upsetting to her, and she didn't know what to do or how to solve these problems. So she called the 900 numbers for the psychic hotlines to the tune of $10,000. And that was probably a decade ago, and she's still paying those off.
Oh, I believe it. I remember that was back in the time when I was still watching TV on a regular basis, and those commercials were on constantly.
Yeah.
All times, day and night. I mean, I'm an insomniac, so I would be up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning still at different times. But even if you watch TV in the afternoon, you would still see it. Mrs. Cleo.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, Miss Cleo. Yeah.
Or who? There was some singer from the 80s, Dionne.
Oh,
something.
Dionne Warwick.
Dionne Warwick, yeah.
Yeah, I had forgotten about her. Yeah, Dionne Warwick.
It tends to be, though, about every 10 years, some asshole pops up on the scene who can speak to your deceased loved ones, and they want to help you if you just send them a check or a money order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least give them your credit card number so they can keep charging you.
Send them a box of cow turds instead.
That would probably be about as you get the same number of answers of accuracy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I once, I've seen lots of psychics. I've gone and seen lots of different card readers and palm readers and different things over the years because I enjoy that. I think it's fun and I like to see what they have to say. But I remember once in New Orleans when I went and saw a woman who had a very fancy little shop right there in the French Quarter, right off of Jackson Square. And I went and saw her, and she gave me a reading about my love life. And she told me that she was having trouble interpreting the spirits about my love life, and in order to give me any actual answers about what to do to figure out what I had done in all these past lives to give myself such bad relationship karma, that I needed to give her my credit card number. And what she was going to do was she took this special wooden carved box out from underneath her table, and she was going to give me this box, but she was going to keep it. And so I guess I would get to look at it from afar, maybe, because I wasn't allowed to take it home with me. But she wanted to charge me $200 to take this box, put a secret love note in it, then put it under her pillow and sleep and pray on it so that she could find out what the other side needed for me to do to fix my bad love karma. And then she became really defensive and argumentative toward me when I said, well, I don't have $200. I'll just, take whatever advice I can get for the $30 I gave you.
Maybe you can't afford a good love life.
And that's what she said. She said, don't you want to invest in your future? Well, yeah, I want to make sure I have food and clothing and shelter.
That right there pisses me off so much. Turning on gullible people like that. And instead of saying, why don't you just give me your fucking money?
Right.
Saying, why don't you invest in your future? There's a lot of that going on in these like televangelist shows.
Oh, well. Yeah.
You just need to invest your seed money in our ministry so we can help you. God will give it back to you, but I need a new suit and a car.
Yeah. The band Insane Clown Posse, also known as ICP, they have a fantastic song about that, and you guys should Google that and watch a video on it because the lyrics of that song are just classic. It's about
Give us a little quote.
It goes the beginning of it goes, "Who am I? I'm not the devil. I can take you to my level. Above the clouds, above the earth, tell me what your soul is worth. How much money do you make? How much will you let me take? I can give you tranquility. Just send your cold hard-earned cash to me."
Nice.
And it was the preface of the song is that it's supposed to be a televangelist singing during gospel at the church. And then at the end of the song, they're raising money to heal this little boy named Little Jonathan. And it makes me laugh to even think about it. But they've collected thousands and thousands of dollars to heal Little Jonathan. And then the minister during the song says, well, are you ready to be healed, Little Jonathan? Yes, Reverend. And then they do this little prayer, and then they go, Lama, Nama, Numi, this boy is healed. Now, to the naked eye, it may appear that this boy has not been healed, but I can assure you his spirit has been healed. And then the little boy's voice goes, ah? And it's just classic.
That is kind of classic, though, if you've ever watched any of those televangelist shows on TV. It's never a physical healing, it's just a spiritual one. You'll find out about it after you're dead. At which point, it's too late to sue me for the money you spent.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that there isn't such a thing as spiritual healing. I'm not arguing that either which way. It's the means that these people are going through to steal people's money so that they can fool them into thinking they've been healed. Because I've never heard of any divine power coming along and asking for your checkbook.
No, money, all forms of commerce, that is a human invention.
Yes.
If there is life on other worlds somewhere, some of them might have come up with it. But animals don't trade in money. Squirrels aren't saving up their nuts to buy a new home.
Right.
Yeah, it's strictly human. It only works in this plane of existence while you're alive. That was another thing I laughed at in that Sylvia Browne discussing 2012. She was talking about how over there we all have our own occupations. What's the point of dying and moving on to somewhere else if I still got to get a fucking job?
Yeah, it never ends. You've got to constantly be working for the man, whether you're alive or dead.
As soon as you cross over, there's a tax man handing you forms.
Right.
You're going to need a new ID, son.
And yeah, stop here and stand along this white wall so we can take a photo for your work ID up in heaven. What the heck is that?
I don't know. But I wonder what I'm going to look like after I get cremated.
Well, no, you'll be 35.
Oh, that's right.
You'll be 35 and you'll have a job. And Yeah, apparently your grand castle will be waiting for you after you've worked enough in heaven to move in.
You don't even get to sit around and play any goddamn harp music. This
No,
is
well,
terrible.
and I thought it was at rest. I thought your soul was to be at rest. At rest is not working to me.
No, I don't think I need an occupation in the afterlife.
No, I've done enough work here. I'm good. I'm good on that. But yeah, so Bill and I actually took some tests to see how psychic we were.
Oh, yes, we did. Because there are tests out there, and you can find out if you're psychic, too.
Yeah, you can Google it online. Free psychic tests, and there's a wide variety of them.
Now, we took 6 of them.
Yeah.
And we'll give you our own personal synopsis of what they were and whether or not we passed or failed.
What do you think? Are we psychic? Because I'm willing to take your $850 if you want to send it to us. I'll give you a reading.
Psychic. I might even do a psychic reading before the end of this show.
Me too. We'll do readings on each other.
Well, no, I think we can get one of the audience because I think somebody out there, there's a spirit speaking to
Oh,
me.
wait, I see a first name. We'll get back to that, but it's coming to me too.
All right. So anyway, our first test we took were the Zener cards. If anybody's seen Ghostbusters, that's the test they're doing in the very beginning. Dr. Venkman's shocking this poor kid that keeps getting the answers right. You've got, 5 different cards?
Yeah, there's 5 different symbols.
Yeah,
and
5 different symbols. There's a circle, a triangle, a cross, wiggly lines, and something else. I don't remember.
A square.
A square. Okay.
Yes.
And you've got to guess which one is going to come up next.
Yeah, so there's 5 of each of those symbols because there's 25 cards.
We failed miserably.
Yeah, we sure did. And that particular test is supposed to be to use to find if you have ESP.
Yeah, well, that one claims we did not, but we took another ESP test.
Yeah, and we passed that one.
62%. We
Yes.
got a D!
Yeah, apparently in order to be psychic, you only have to have a 26% pass rate, so we just passed the hell out of that test.
So all you illiterate people out there who just keep checking the same box on your tests, you could also be psychic.
Sure, but I've also heard if you get 100% wrong accuracy that you're also psychic, because with the statistical probability, you should at least be able to get about 10%. So apparently Sylvia must be psychic with her 100% fail rate.
Sylvia's big defense there.
Yeah.
100% wrong, definitely a psychic.
Yeah.
We tried telekinesis, and this one was a little bit weird because you've basically got a digital bar on the screen, and you're supposed to move a blue-colored line to the right. We tried.
It started moving.
It did start moving. Whether the program told it to or not, we're not sure.
Yeah, we thought about retesting it and starting the program, then leaving the room to see if it would continue to move by itself, but we really didn't find it necessary after actually trying it.
Another waste of time. We failed.
Yeah.
We were not telekinetic, which sucks. You know, if I were telekinetic,
it'd be awesome.
It would be awesome, but I would just be doing random shit like blowing up skirts in the distance as people walk by.
You would.
I would. I'm a freaking pervert.
Yeah. Whereas I would try to move people's pocket money into my pockets. Wait, that does make me psychic.
So I'm a pervert and
I'm a charlatan. So you can be the pervert, I'll be the charlatan. But either way, at least that still makes us psychic.
See, I can blow their skirts up and distract them. You can steal their money. No big deal.
Well, that's the way to actually become a true psychic, is to see how much money you can get from people.
That's right.
But sorry. But yeah, that's telekinetics.
So we tried remote viewing, which is the ability to take a tiny bit of information and come up with a picture about a person or a place or a thing
that you've allegedly never been to or that's far away.
Exactly. This was actually used a lot in the U.S. government during the Cold War era. Basically, our government was afraid that the Russians were working on it.
Yeah.
So they started working on it too. Not having any basis in reality, but they all did it and spent plenty of millions of dollars on it.
There was a movie that came out a couple years ago that won some awards about that. The Men Who
Stare at Goats.
Yeah.
That was such a great movie, but it was based off the writings of people who were really in that program.
Yeah.
Which is some funny shit.
I just can't imagine that the United States government would spend taxpayer money on something so frivolous. It's never happened before.
No, they're usually very frugal about
these they usually make sure that all money goes to a worthy cause before allocating it. So I'm shocked by this, and I don't know. I don't know who was in charge that day that allowed this, but I don't know. Then we took the Guess the Word quiz with 2 Z's.
Yes.
The extra Z makes it more psychic.
Fancy.
But essentially, they put a blank line with how many letters should be in this word. Maybe there'd be 5 letters, and then you had to guess what word they were thinking of. A lot like how when you play that game in the newspaper, where you try to figure out what word are they looking for, and you've
kind of like an old hangman.
Yeah, like hangman. And so then you guess what the word was. We failed that.
Yep, we are terrible failures.
Oftentimes, curse words were not used as the answer for those, though we thought they would be. Yeah, I mean, they were all 4 and 5 letter words. What were we supposed to think?
The last test we took was sensitivity. And this was a multiple choice quiz.
Yeah, about like how much coffee you drink, if you drink alcohol, if you get enough sleep at night. And this was apparently to determine if your body was in a plane of existence, energies-wise speaking. I'm not quite sure. It really didn't make any sense.
Maybe it's to make you sensitive enough to hear those spirits
that
always tell Sylvia the wrong thing.
Maybe. But yeah, so it determined, you were supposed to determine how much meat product you consume and different things like that. And we scored a 55%.
Yeah, that's an F in school, but it's a pass for psychic abilities.
Yeah, in school that would have been an F, definitely. Maybe even lower than an F. But yeah, again, you only need 26% to pass to be psychic.
I got nothing to say on that.
It was. We would just laugh the whole time taking these tests. It was ridiculous.
But there are a lot of people out there that take this shit super serious. Trust me, if you have a psychic ability, you probably already know about it. If you don't have one, the internet's not going to help you.
No. Well, and then you can also sign up for training programs online for money to develop your psychic powers.
They might even be run by one of our biggest douche runner-ups.
Yeah, they very well may. And actually, I know for a fact that Sylvia Brown started her own church in California.
Oh, nice.
And so you can go and become a member of her church, and then she will help you with your spiritual development. Though I don't think she actually attends the church very often because she's always busy traveling the world.
Scamming people all over
out of
the
their
world.
money. Yeah. But you can go and sign up for the church, and they will teach you how to work on your psychic powers and to communicate with the other side. And she's not the only one that does this. You know, we discussed John Edward because he won the South Park Award for the biggest douche. But there's also James Van Praagh and a number of other ones. Out of the three that we looked at, James Van Praagh's rates were the most reasonable, if you can call $700 an hour reasonable. But he was the only one that would actually let you record the sessions.
Which is a big ballsy move, considering if you go on YouTube and look up James Van Praagh, you can see some videos of him fucking it up real good as well.
Oh yeah, we watched one that was my favorite of all time.
Australian TV show.
Yeah, it was an Australian TV show, and he was talking to a family, and was talking to them and saying, "Well, are you guys Catholic?" "Well, yeah." "Oh, well, that explains why I see the Virgin Mary, these posters of the Virgin Mary, these pictures, these holy images."
"We're Catholic, of course we have those."
Yeah, and the family just looked at him, just appalled, like, obviously, we're Catholic, of course we have these items around our house. That doesn't tell us anything. And then he continued to go on and explain how their elderly mother was taking a lot of medication right before she passed away. And they were like, "No, she didn't take anything, not even vitamins." "Oh, well, yeah, no, she was taking medication. Maybe you just didn't know."
Maybe she was just hiding her drug habit from you.
Right. And he just continued to try to skirt around that. And then once that wasn't going to take, he switched over to another family. Then the TV host just had enough, and he was only on the air for about 6.5 minutes and just said, "Okay, well, that was James Van Praagh. Yay, clap,
That's
everybody."
Enough grasping at straws for one day. You're all done.
Yeah, it's amazing, but I'm not saying that people shouldn't work on their spiritual development or try to console themselves when they're grieving, but for God's sakes, watch out for these charlatans stealing your money.
Empathy for the people who have suffered a loss. Try and help them through it any way you can. Be part of their community, part of their life. But don't try and make them pay you for it. If anybody's going to make you pay for it, punch them in the mouth.
Yeah.
I think you should probably have a pretty good defense in court over that.
Well, and the problem is that we do live in a society where people don't really know what's going on with their neighbors. They don't even know that their neighbor's, husband has passed away or that they've lost a child because people keep to themselves too much. And that also happens to be how people like this trio of brother perverts are able to snatch up a bunch of little girls and keep them in their house right next door to other people.
Yeah, we have lost all sense of community. We don't really know one another. Fuck, I don't know my neighbors.
And honestly, I don't know mine either.
Yeah, I don't wave at them or anything, and that's a problem. We are never going to get past any of the issues we have as a society if we don't start getting to know the people around us and building some form of community.
Yeah, and the thing is that community has been lost for quite a while, and not everyone. There's obviously decent people out there, but we don't know who they are because we don't talk to anybody.
Well, there's just too many of us piled on top of one another. Even in the smallest cities. I mean, you get like 50,000 people piled up within a 10-square-mile radius. That's a lot of people to deal with.
It is.
And even though you recognize some faces when you go to the grocery store, you don't talk to those people.
Right.
Maybe you should.
Maybe you should, and maybe you should actually walk over and introduce yourself to your neighbors. And when you see them outside, stop by and have a conversation. When you go to check your mail and you see other neighbors out checking their mail, wave at them. If it snows 3 feet, walk over and shovel the little old lady's driveway that's across the street from you.
Exactly. The woman that lives by herself, she probably doesn't have as much strength as the guy who lives next door. Let him go out and shovel some stuff. It's not going to take up that much of your time.
Yeah.
Get off your ass, quit watching TV and playing video games.
Yeah.
Do something for the world around you. Do something to be a better person.
Yeah.
And donating money to cunt organizations is not making you a better person.
It's really not. And because those organizations are not reaching out and helping people. Sylvia Brown may donate to charity, but she's stealing much more money than could ever possibly be given to anyone to help.
And that's really what it is. It's theft. And I've heard it equated to, well, you'll pay to see a musician or an actor or a comedian. Yeah, right. But you're walking away with a product, even though it's a mental product, that didn't hurt anybody.
Right. But this is actually harming people.
Yeah, this is definitely a harm. And really, what all these people are doing is just a form of social engineering.
Yeah. And working as a therapist, I used a lot of social engineering with my clients because when you first meet someone, you don't know anything about them. And to get a conversation rolling, you kind of have to start with, well, obviously something's brought you to me. And so, obviously something big has happened in your past.
Was it the spirits?
Yeah, and I never tried to claim that I was getting this information telepathically from any kind of spirits or anything, but I would read body language. And when someone would appear uncomfortable, I would know I was hitting on something that would make them feel uncomfortable. So let's talk about this. Why are you suddenly grinding your teeth? Why are you clenching your fists? I can tell you're thinking about something that's bothering you. And it wasn't that I was psychic, it was that I was reading their face. And that's exactly what the TV psychics do. They read body language and face
You can tell a lot. If you are well-versed, you can tell a lot by the way people are dressed, the way they style their hair, the type of jewelry they wear.
Yeah.
You can pick up on small cues and just start talking to them about, in general, things that they may or may not have something to do with.
Yeah,
and you'll tell by the look on their face whether or not you hit a good hot spot.
Yeah, and what the TV psychics do is when they hit on something that was wrong, they just gently skirt away from that and start talking about something else. And then as soon as they say something that sounds similar to something you've experienced, then you're like, you forget everything else they said. Even though they only said during an hour-long conversation 3 things that may have been close to being right, those 3 things were usually so general that anybody could have said the same thing if they were sitting across from you.
This kind of thing, like this skirting over what was just said, this happens a lot. If you go on and watch any video, and I mean from any point in time since the invention of the video camera, watch a political rally.
Yeah.
It does not matter what the speaker says. As soon as they're done, somebody in the crowd starts a chant.
USA!
Everybody follows that chant. And what that does is it completely stops you from thinking about anything that has been said.
That reminds me of when we used to watch Emperor Bush, former President Bush.
Governor?
Yeah.
He wasn't a president, he wasn't elected.
Right, but yeah, we would watch him give his speeches, and he would say a word like democracy, and then he'd lean back a little bit and give that weird smirk that he had.
Look at me, I got that word right.
Yep, these Merkins. But yeah, so the words freedom, power, money, democracy, USA, those are all words that we attribute to being powerful to ourselves. And so we always hit on those, and we were, oh yeah, he's talking to me, and it's all about making sure we have national freedom. And that wasn't what he was talking about at all. They just randomly slipped these words in the middle of a sentence.
Well, that's why they hire these people and pay them so much money to come up with really short but effective campaign slogans, like, yes, we can. Because it's something one person can start chanting in a crowd. And I've done this at concerts. Just start chanting a random word that has something to do with the musician. The people around you start, and before you know it, you have 30, 40,000 people screaming the exact same thing that just came out of your mouth. It's easy. People are easy to manipulate. We are a bunch of dumb apes.
Yeah, yeah. Although I did like that Yes Pecan ice cream that came from that Yes We Can slogan.
I never tried that.
Oh, yeah. It was a Ben & Jerry's thing. Yes Pecan. I like pecan ice cream, though, so it wouldn't have mattered what the slogan was on the tub.
That's true. Ben & Jerry's is good no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't care who they support.
Exactly. I don't either. But it's people fall victim to common words that are deemed powerful, and it's all psychology. And anybody that takes a Psychology 101 class or just even reads a book or watches a documentary, you'll pick up on it, and you'll be like, my God, I can't believe how easy it is. And just talking with people on occasion, you don't even have to do it every day, you will become an expert at how to do cold reading. It's not hard at all. And just to be convincing at it, all you have to do is, if you start saying something wrong, just change the subject. and they will forget that you said that. It's really easy.
It takes very little effort.
Well, it's kind of like how I never remember people's kids' names. So I will kind of hint around, oh, how are your kids doing? And then eventually they'll say one of their kids' names. And you just keep bringing up their kids, and they will say their names. And then it looks like you remembered their names the whole time.
Yeah, it looks like
didn't.
You're totally involved there. I wasn't.
Exactly, but you just keep repeating things, and that's what they do. It's not difficult, but it really is. Cold reading is not even bad. That's how we get to know each other. But it's when you use those skills for evil, like stealing money from people.
I swore not to use my powers for the forces of good.
Yep. It's just so crazy. But just reach out there, and if you know someone who's going through something, some kind of grief, be it from losing a job or from losing a loved one, because grief can take all kinds of forms, just be there for them. Don't offer to come over and mow their lawn for money. Go over and offer to mow their lawn because they've been through something and can't do it right now.
Just hold a conversation with them. Have a cup of coffee with them. Something. You can do something that makes people feel better without screwing them over or sending them into the hands of another charlatan that's going to screw them over.
Well, and nothing like just asking, how are you? And everyone always says, fine. Say, well, no, how are you really doing?
Yeah, you can talk to me.
It's like when you go to the doctor's office and they say, well, how are you doing? Great. Well, then why are you here at the doctor's office? Obviously something's going on. So you dig a little deeper if you feel that someone needs it, but just be there for people.
I will say this, though. If you're going to do that, if you're going to become somebody's confidant and somebody they can talk to, don't be one of those douchebags that takes that information and turns it around in the way to entertain others.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Be a decent human being, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, going over and talking to someone who needs help is not a reason to become a gossip hound. When someone speaks to you from their heart, you really need to keep that to yourself.
You really should.
It's not.
You can use that information to tease them mercilessly in privacy, because I do that with my loved ones constantly.
Well, sure, when they're ready for it.
Exactly. Let them get over the shit, and then I'm going to give you a hard time for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, wait until they've stopped crying.
No one else ever has to know.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's just reach out there and be a better person. The world is full of too many charlatans stealing things from others. Just be there to help people.
Yeah. But when we were looking into this whole social engineering thing, coming up with the idea for making fun of these dumb psychic assholes, we also watched a documentary that I recommend to everyone. I don't care if you have a child, if you're a single adult, everybody should see this documentary. It's called Consuming Kids.
Yeah, it's a fantastic documentary. I've watched it myself.
I used to think that I was so far above any kind of social conditioning or engineering. Man, I watched that movie and thought, son of a bitch, that's why I think that.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, that's where I got that idea.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I'm like, wow, I had to have all those toys when I was little too. And now I understand why psychologically those appealed to me as a young person. And now I have a small niece and nephew, and I watch them observing commercials, and it's really fascinating how easy people are to fool.
Well, really, the problem is when it comes to this, and this goes back to people being cunts just to make money, it's very easy for somebody with an MBA to take over the mind of a toddler.
Yeah, it doesn't take a big person to convince a 2 or 3 year old of something. But especially knowing that in a lot of homes, the children are making purchasing choices because a lot of parents don't know things about technology. If you're going to go and buy a new laptop, you're probably going to ask your middle school or high school child which one is the better deal.
What does this need to do for you to be able to do your schoolwork?
Right, because the parents don't know.
Right.
And so the children want the one that they've advertised heavily on TV that's the best for video games, it's the best for music, because that's what they're interested in, not really homework.
It's not always technology, though. I mean, kids will freak out in grocery stores if you don't buy them the macaroni and cheese with the new cartoon character on it.
Yeah.
It tastes better than all the others I know. Have you tried it? No, but I know it tastes better.
Yeah.
The TV told me.
Yeah,
TV is God.
Yeah, I remember my niece, there was a certain brand of soup that had characters on it from some cartoon that she watched, and that was the only soup that she would eat. And it was exactly the same soup I was eating, except mine were regular shaped noodles.
Yeah. Mine are round, yours are shaped like fucking sponge characters. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, they just put children's cartoon characters on different products to sell them. I'm pretty sure that the whatever Muppet or puppet that is on the child's bar of soap is not going to make a child any more clean.
Not in the least bit.
But they'll charge you an extra $5 for that bar of soap.
Sure, it's not just children, though, because you start... in 1980, what was it, 1984, they really deregulated advertising towards children.
Yeah.
They made it just all out, whatever you wanted to make money. And that's one of the biggest problems. Obviously, deregulation doesn't work so well. Hello, exploding factory in Texas.
Yeah.
But, I mean, almost everybody who would be listening to this grew up in an age where you have not only the toys on the shelf, but the food associated with those toys, the TV shows and the movies associated with those toys. You have been given product placement your entire life. You've been taught brand loyalty from the time, your earliest memories.
Yeah, well, just as an example, I remember as a youngster, I loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
And then I loved pizza because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles loved pizza. And I believe they loved Domino's, so that's the one I loved. And not only did they, then I had the videos, I had the watches, I had t-shirts, I had a sleeping bag. And any sleeping bag would have been just as warm, but half the price. But they do product placement in everything.
They do. It's terrible. But, you know, it still traps most adults in our age and even older, thinking that they have to have that name brand pair of jeans or shoes.
Right. Or food.
Yeah, you have to have a name brand food. What will other people think if I don't eat what they eat?
Yeah, I can't bring in these generic chips to work because then everyone will know that I bought generic chips.
Yeah, they'll all think I'm poor, and nobody should be poor in this country.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but really look at what choices you're making and try to think back, why does this appeal to you?
You really need to decipher between what you want and what you need. And then try to live within your financial means.
Yeah.
Quit putting yourself in debt just to keep up with people you don't really like in the first place. It doesn't matter what they think.
Yeah, that's one of the saddest things is that phrase, keeping up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
But it's absolutely true. I remember it applied to me more when I was younger because in the last few years as I've been an adult, I've really tried to look at things before making choices about buying. But I remember being younger and the LA Gear brand Bratz came out with shoes. There was an LA Gear Bratz shoes, and I was going to die if I did not have a pair of those shoes. And I was like having anxiety, and I was probably 12 or 13, and I was going to die if I did not get those shoes. And then eventually my mother gave in and bought me a pair of those shoes, and I did not jump any higher. I did not run any faster. I was not any better at sports, much like when I was 8 and I got the Punky Brewster shoes that I was going to die if I didn't have.
I've been drinking this beer for years and none of them big-breasted ladies are talking to me.
Right, exactly. But I remember watching a documentary about product placement and the way they can fool people with advertisements, and Listerine mouthwash. That came out after they had done an ad featuring brides and bridesmaids, where, why are you always the bridemaid, never the bride? Is it possibly your breath? Try Listerine. And then that started flying off the shelves.
Oh, yeah.
And so it is just little things like that, like, well, maybe that's why I can't find a man, is that I'm not using mouthwash.
I didn't read the right self-help books.
Absolutely. But, yeah, just be a little smarter and try to inform yourself and actually go out and watch some of these documentaries and read things. And don't take what they say as gospel.
No, don't take information from anyone and turn it into a belief. You need to go out and research things on your own. You need to formulate your own opinions that are not... It's almost impossible to go uninfluenced by anybody, but you need to start weighing pros and cons of everything. And even when you meet somebody who's got a completely different worldview than you can still find some form of common ground to work on building your community.
Right.
Build the community, damn it.
Well, and if you don't start trying to inform yourself, nothing's ever going to change. So you've got to work on making yourself as informed as you can be on as many topics as you can be. And only reading one book about something does not make you informed. Watching one film or one documentary does not make you informed. You need to learn things from both sides of the camp so that you can compare and contrast. So if you are left-wing or right-wing, learn things from both so you can say, well, this is actually what I believe is the truth. And what you believe is the truth. It doesn't matter what anybody else says.
That's right. Well, honestly, I get up in arms about that shit, though, with, like, right-wing, left-wing. Any of these distinctions that you use to separate yourself, it really seems to me like somebody's just throwing out that old divide-and-conquer technique.
USA! USA!
I want to see all them Muslims work. That was probably the worst thing I'd ever heard. Some asshole saying, and I believe it was on Fox News, the father of all true things. That's a lie. I'm being facetious. But
I want to interject just really quick with that. My cousin used to date a boy, and he was really interested in learning all different kinds of political things. And he was over at my grandmother's house speaking with her about whatever was going on with the particular presidential election. And she was being really argumentative with him. And he smiled at her very sweetly and with all the respect he could muster and said, "You must have watched Fox News, didn't you, ma'am?" And it was hilarious.
Oh, I feel so bad for people who get all their information from there.
And
but I heard this guy, and this was probably 5 years ago, but I've heard it reiterated recently over the Boston bombings and the 2 suspects there.
Yeah.
Somebody saying, "I learned everything I need to know about Muslims from 9/11."
Oh, God.
Yeah, how fucking ignorant are you, you idiot? That's no different than me saying, "Well, I learned everything I need to know about Christians from the burning times, the Salem witch trials."
Yeah.
It didn't teach you jack shit about anybody.
No, it taught you something about the character of one person, not a group of people.
Everybody should go out and try and find stuff on memetics. You've probably heard the term used as just meme, as an internet meme. And if you're on Facebook, you've probably seen pictures with just goofy slogans that might institute some sort of idea. But really, memetics is the evolution of an idea through a society and how it forms and changes itself as people pass it from place to place.
Yeah.
It works really well in the whole social engineering genre. I mean, it's very easy to throw an idea out there and play Chinese telephone with it. Watch how it bounces around from person to person and changes slightly. Even all the good things get changed in this shit over time.
Yeah.
You just got to be careful, watch it, and don't be taken in by it. Don't become victim of the charlatans.
Well, and to prevent yourself from being taken, you really have to learn as much about things that you don't agree with as you do with things you do agree with. Because you can research something that you already believe, and you'll just become a greater believer in that. But you need to read what other people are saying that's opposite of what you believe, so you can actually formulate as informed of a choice as possible.
Yeah, you can't build community with people if you're not willing to find some form of common ground.
Yeah.
And that means you've got to know enough about opposite beliefs in order to have a conversation with somebody that doesn't believe what you believe.
Right. And the thing about beliefs are that they change. And you should be willing to allow yourself to grow as a person and say, well, now that I've gotten this new information, maybe I'll alter what I was thinking a little bit and see it from a little bit different perspective. Because if you only believe what you've ever believed, nothing's ever going to change and we're all going to stay exactly the same.
That's very, very true. And I can honestly say, from my point of view from the early 90s going all into conspiracy theories and studying, I love conspiracy theories, and I still do, no matter how outlandish and stupid they are.
Yeah.
It's just fun shit to know. I love it. But there comes a certain point when you realize, if I don't steer away from this, I'm never going to find anything I can trust anywhere in the world. But the same goes for people who are watching network news on a regular basis. If you're only getting your information from one source,
you're only hearing one
lost.
side.
Yeah, you've got to expand. You've got to start looking everywhere you can to get information. And don't hold a belief structure. Go with the whole Kevin Smith dogma line. Well, it wasn't Kevin Smith that spoke it, but he wrote the movie. Have an idea. Ideas are easy to change. You can change an idea at any point in time, and you're going to move along and be just fine.
Yeah, so work on self-development, and self-development also involves community development. You cannot work on yourself without seeing how you impact your community, and your community impacts the world. So you need to really look at your own community and say, what is my place with this group of people with whom I dwell? And what can I do as an individual to improve not only my own circumstances, but those of the people around me?
Yeah.
This is not a time to be selfish. The time to be selfish is never.
Look at where it got us so far.
Exactly.
This me first, I'm looking out for number one, turned us into a world with nothing but poisoned water, poisoned oxygen.
Poison food, poison soil.
And we're currently burning out all the habitable land just so some asshole charlatan can keep making money off of your sweat.
Yep.
If we're ever going to fix it, we've got to start by getting along with people around us and building a society that wants to fix it.
Right, and getting along doesn't mean you have to walk around with a plastic smile on your face. That's the opposite of what we want you to do. We want you to actually have a conversation with people. Don't just walk up and give that weird, toothy grin and act like you like them. Why don't you find out, do you actually like them?
Yeah.
And you don't have to like everybody, but you can still respect everyone, whether you like them or not.
And there are very, very few things that you can't look past in a person. Unless they're a child molester or a rapist or something. I can understand ostracizing that individual. But just because, well, he's a Muslim and I'm a Christian and we need to hate one another. The Bible told me so. The Bible didn't say any such thing. You're listening to some other asshole's interpretation because you didn't look for yourself. You
Yeah.
didn't formulate your own idea. Get an idea.
Get an idea and be willing to change it. But you've really got to look outside yourself. And the only way things are going to change in this world is if we all come together with the agreement that we all need to come together. And the only way that you can do that is to open yourself up to being willing to change some things about yourself. And when you change yourself, you can help other people change what is going on in their lives too.
You really can. You can make this world a better place. You just have to put in a little effort.
Yeah. So I guess that's where we're going to close off for today. Get out there and talk to your neighbor. Get out there and be friendly. And it's too hot to shovel snow right this minute, but maybe water your neighbor's flowers, or just stop by and have a cup of tea.
Elderly couple down the street, maybe offer to mow their lawn. It's only going to take you 45 minutes a week. You can do it, and maybe they'll make you some cookies or something to make you feel better about it.
Yeah.
Be a decent person. Trade out good things for good things. Oh, and we didn't really cover a whole lot of that story with Mrs. Berry and the kidnapping because we don't want to justify what these assholes did, and we don't want anybody glorifying them in the media. All that does is create more pricks.
Yeah, so when you amongst yourselves, when you discuss that case, focus on the victims, the survivors of this case,
yes,
and ignore the names and of these perpetrators. They are disgusting individuals that don't deserve to have their names spoken out loud. So remember little. Well, I guess they're not so little anymore. These poor young ladies have grown up and become women now.
Yeah.
But yeah, remember those girls and just work on making your own community better. And things like that won't be able to happen as easily if everybody's watchful of what's going on with their neighbor's home.
That's right. And only mention those pricks' names if you're making jokes about them being anally raped in prison, because I really hope they are. Many, many times. They should become somebody else's harem.
It's just the whole thing just turns my stomach.
It does. It's disgusting. And hey, maybe by next week we'll know a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it for Ravings this week.
Yes.
Enjoy yourselves. Be good to one another. Or as Bill and Ted say, be excellent to one another.
Yeah. I love that movie. But yeah, so this is Tana and Bill signing off for Ravings with No Peg Wrong Hole Productions.
See ya.